everyone. Today I have with me author Nerys Leigh, and she is the author of, her new book is A Hope Unseen. She's written many books, but this is your newest. As a matter of fact, this was 2017, correct? This just came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beginning of January.
Right, and this is the first book in this series is this one, is No One's Bride. But today we're going to talk about the brand new one, A Hope Unseen. And so as I'm reading it, I didn't understand the title till I got to the end, and I was like, oh my God, that was so brilliant. It was an absolutely brilliant title. You know, everybody always stresses about what their title should be, but this was definitely a very good title for this book.
Oh, I stressed over that. It took me ages. I went through so many different... I think I got that at the last second.
Oh, really?
I decided on that.
Oh, it is amazing. It's amazing. And so a little bit of background, when I got these, because I found you on Goodreads, and you had gotten some rave reviews, and so I was like, okay, I want to read this, and I was like, you know what? I never read a Christian romance, and I grew up a Christian, okay. But the thing is there were some books when my daughters were younger, and they were called the Christy Miller series, and I had them reading those. Those were like teen Christian romance, because at the time of their in their age, like Twilight was coming out, and you know, all this dark romance stuff was coming out. So I kind of wanted them to balance it out, and they loved it. And when I was reading this, I was like, oh my God, first of all, like, who does not want, you know, like a Daniel in their life? Okay.
I want a Daniel, yeah.
I mean, he was so amazing, and I love that, you know, you picked those names, Daniel and Sarah. I love the choice of names for them, and as I was reading it, I was like, now this is back in the 1860s, you know, things are a little different now, but isn't it awesome to like think about like what it was as opposed to like how it kind of is now? Like, is that the fun in writing this for you?
Yeah, there's something about his stuff. I suppose we kind of sugarcoat it a bit, because things weren't probably like we like to think they were. They were a lot harder than they are now. And if I had a choice, I would probably want to live now rather than then.
Okay, yes.
I love things.
They're living. I'm not going to say, right, their living is definitely, I mean, but I do like always, and I taught, you know, I have 6 children. I have 4 boys and 2 girls. And with my girls, I'm always, you know, one of them's married and one of them's dating. And I always tell them, like, you know, there's this way that it can be. And then there's this way that, you know, media and television and movies and everything just kind of coats, you know, like I loved the way he cared about her, like he was raised to care about her, you know? And
yes,
I was a single mom. When I was raising my 2 oldest sons, I was a single mom, and I always took them to church, and they, you know, like I always taught them like how to open my door, because their dad was not present in their lives at that time. So I felt the responsibility, like I got to take ththese little boys and I got to teach them how to be men, you know? And so I did all that stuff, which I'm really there. I think their wives are very grateful. Because it stuck with them, you know. But it gets harder and harder. That even raising them back then was a different time. Like now it's like, and especially with everything, you know, I know you don't understand exactly what's going on here in America, but right now, like women are claiming we have no rights again, and that, you know, there's all these women marches, and I always think to myself, like, I get that, but on the other hand, like, what are we asking for? You know, what kind of, you know, what are we asking for? You know, you can't have it. Can you have it both ways? I don't know. Can you have the men treating you like a queen and having equal rights? And, you know, this was in an age before they had to think about that, or that my daughters even had to think about that, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's what I liked about it. That's, you know, that was my takeaway.
Yes, it was a lot simpler time back then.
Yes.
People were, as I said, we probably sugarcoat it, but it would be nice to think that men could be respectful of women all the time and know how to treat them and not look at them in certain ways and expect certain things, like is happening more and more now. Kids are raised on often an unhealthy outlook on the relationship between men and women. I think now, even it changed within my lifetime. It wasn't so much this back when I was younger. So it's nice with writing historical romance and reading it, because I love reading it as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simpler thing. The men were respectful and they treated the women well, and they didn't expect things. Excuse me. And it was a lot simpler. People knew what to expect, I think, back then.
Exactly. I think it was they knew what their roles were, and maybe it is more complicated nowadays to know what the rule, what your role is as a wife and as a mom, and it's a little bit more complicated. But I when I read it, I like to be like, oh, it was, they didn't have to think like, what am I going to tell my daughters? Like, they knew what to tell their daughters. They knew how to raise their daughters. They knew what was going to, you're going to be a mom, you're going to be a wife, this is what's going to happen. And this, and the way that she goes when Sarah starts having trouble, the way she goes to her mother-in-law, I love that. Like, that the mother-in-law isn't like, no, my son is perfect, and like because
you think the mothers would know.
And I always thought I would too. Like, I have 2 daughters-in-law, and I always think that too. It's like, you couldn't come to me and say, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, not my son, he's so perfect.
Yeah, you can still love your son and think that they're wonderful and perfect, and still know that they also have their faults.
Right, exactly. But it was a time when it was like families stuck together, and it's like, don't worry, we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. It's, and the mom was like there to help her figure that role out too, because she obviously didn't have her mother there that she could run to and say, I'm having trouble, So
yes,
that's what I can. Yeah. But, okay, so like you were saying, I was reading, where did I see that you said, I think it was on your website, and you were like, how do I know what happened in the American West? From everything I've ever learned, you nailed it pretty good. I mean, everything that I learned in American history, I thought you did awesome. But of course we didn't learn this in school, but did they do that? Is that a fact or fiction? Did they actually get these wives, these girls, to agree to move west?
I did research. Yes. I would like to point that out, but they did, but I don't think it was. I mean, you can imagine what it was like. They did put adverts in, and a friend of mine who also has written mail order bride books, she's looked into it, and she got a book that's talking about the history and some of the adverts that men put in the papers for wives, and also some of the disasters that happened, because it didn't work out by any stretch of the imagination for everyone. And so it did happen. I don't know how well it worked for people. I think that in those days people were more willing to accept less from a marriage. It was more like it was something you did out of obligation, and that you would stick at it, rather than you could get divorced anytime, because it was incredible. I was looking at that recently, and it was incredibly difficult to divorce. You were stuck in horrific marriages back then sometimes, and they couldn't get divorces themselves. And I've got a internet problem.
It's okay. It corrected itself.
Right, and so just get your son to edit that bit out.
It'll be fine.
And so it was. I think that people felt differently about marriage than we did now. Maybe I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. I think they were willing to work at it more then. but also when it wasn't, when there was some things that were really bad, like abuse going on, they were also stuck in it. So there are good and bad things about that, but yeah, they did. There were very few women. A lot of men had come out for the gold rush, which was I think it was 20, 30 years before, and so there were a lot of men and not too many women, and so they did need wives.
Yes. And okay, so, just to back it up a little bit, I mean, she does have the opportunity to marry. Her family's wealthy. She has the opportunity in the beginning of the book to choose another wealthy man. Her life could have been very simple in the city, and not having to do farm work. But there's
Yeah.
something in her that tells her, like, I think there can be real love. Like, I think that real love exists. And if I say yes to him, she knew for both of them it wasn't really love, like that they both deserved better in that, which it was a time when I don't know how many young girls really thought about that either. So it is showing her independent spirit. She had to go against what her parents' advice was, in not marrying I don't even remember, what's his name? Was it Henry?
Henry, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Henry, was it? No, my mind's going blank.
I know, I think it was Henry. But anyway, so, to me, that right in the beginning, it shows her spirit, and then it jumps to, okay, now she's out west, and she's placed in front of this man, but she's instantly like, now this is what I was waiting for, because she's instantly liking him, and I love that. But she turns into, her strong independent spirit. I mean, she wants to know everything. She wants to know how to do everything. She's head first, wants to do everything and doesn't want to just sit there. She wants it to be a partnership. And I loved that whole part of it too. Now, when you go to write this, like, did you know what you wanted to have happen to Daniel? Like, did you figure that out? Like, do you outline it, or do you just kind of write it and it just comes to you?
I knew what was going to happen to Daniel, but I'm kind of halfway between. I knew when I start a book, I know the basics. So I know where I'm going and vaguely what's going to happen. So I knew what was going to happen to him, but I don't know all the details. That comes as I write. So, but I did know going in what was going to happen. Of course, the beauty of writing is that once you discover something, you can go back and change the stuff before to make it look like you knew it was coming.
Right, that's true when you're editing it. But I loved, and I don't want to give away the story, to everybody, but what I loved about the message that I got from it. And so then I was like, oh, I love that I get a message from this book. Like, this book is like full of messages. And the one that I ended up thinking about after I put the book down last week was that it gave me, like, I thought about what I do in my life and how I try to, when he was fighting against the accident and what had happened to him, nothing was going well. Nothing was working. He was miserable. And it's that accepting that, if you don't learn to embrace it, I don't want to say embrace it, but accept it and be like, okay, maybe I don't know what's best for me. Maybe there is something out there maybe there is something that I don't know, and maybe God knows, and I don't know. And I loved that, and then when he accepted, like, he started doing everything for himself, and and like I said, I don't want to give away the ending, but I carried it with me for a couple of days. And I think that that's what's important, is that your book meant something, and it touched me in that way. And you don't get a lot of novels that you're going to get a lesson from, that's just not, and I don't even want to say that if you're not a Christian, any religion that you are, I still think there's lessons here. And it wasn't that other people and other religions and nationalities can't get something from it. I think they can get the exact same message, which I love too,
Yes, well, not wallowing when something bad happens is very difficult to do, which is what Daniel was doing. He was wallowing in what had happened. And so it is difficult to accept that something's happened and that you can't change it, and instead of looking at the bad things, looking at what could be, that you can make it better. And also, if you're a Christian, that trusting God, that he knows what he's doing, even if you don't know what's going to happen. Which is that I didn't actually have that message at the beginning of writing it either. That came to me during the writing. I didn't set out to write a book of messages. It just happened, which is nice. I'm really glad that it happened like that.
No, it was, yeah, there's a definite message. And, it gave me chills at the end of the book. Like, I was like, I was like tear filled, and I was like, wow, this is, I didn't see it coming. I did not see how you ended it. I didn't see that coming. So, when I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. I just loved it, But I had a similar, I was thinking back in my life, and, I'm 52, and I was like, did I ever have an instant like that? And I did. I got injured with my 6th pregnancy. I tore a muscle in my leg, and they couldn't do anything about it because I was pregnant, and I wallowed for a couple of weeks, on the couch, could hardly move, and then one day I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. This is there, obviously. And I did but I didn't have his kind of revelation, but I did have a revelation. And I think that, and then it got better is what I'm trying to say. Like, once I I was like, okay, but I can do what I can do. I can stop sitting here in pain. And I think that is the best message that you gave people, is like, we can't control what happens. He couldn't control it. I couldn't control it, but our attitude and what we're going to do with it, we can control.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's sometimes the hardest thing to control, is our emotions and what we think about things and how we deal with them. But that is the one thing that we can do.
Yes.
So
yeah, and so that's what I want to thank you for in this book. That part was great. So let's talk about you. Like, nobody, let's talk about how you got to this place. So did you get a degree? Because I looked on your website. You don't give anything away about you, except for white chocolate. You love white chocolate. I love
my life.
I love dark chocolate. Let me see if I can find any. I made brownies last night. They're gone. But I can't. As a matter of fact, there are people that are still alive on this earth because I eat dark chocolate. Like, my children, and, like, they'll see me and be like, do you need some chocolate? Yes, I need chocolate. So I thought it was interesting that you like white chocolate, because that is to me, that's like very sugary. Like, I need the stuff
that's the good thing about it.
And I love the real bitter stuff that is like, I need to have that bitter taste in my mouth to, like, I don't know, it's something. But with coffee, it's always better. So do you drink tea or coffee? Like,
I don't drink tea or coffee. I don't like. That's probably why I don't like dark chocolate. I don't like bitter taste, so I don't those either.
That's why you go to see, and that was a question I had. I was like, why does she like white chocolate? That's the answer right there. So so when did you decide, like, writing is what I'm going to do? Did you go to college? Did you get a degree in writing? Did you, like, what happened?
No. Well, I've been writing bits, not very seriously. I did a load of beginnings, some ends, not many middles. Middles are the difficult bit. So I had, I would do stuff like that since I was in my teens, I think. But I never thought seriously about writing until a couple of years ago. And I was a bit late into the whole Kindle thing and e-readers. I didn't even know they existed, which is embarrassing.
I didn't do it either. I did books until people were like saying, why don't you have a Kindle? Oh, I don't know. I guess I should get a Kindle. Especially for traveling purposes. A Kindle is very helpful.
Oh, well, I have a Kindle now, and I love my Kindle. It's practically surgically attached to my hand. It goes everywhere with me. But finding out about self-publishing, I thought, well, I can do this. I naively thought that it would make me rich. Probably not rich, but that it would make some money. Turns out it's not quite as easy as that. But just once I started writing, and actually write. I used to think that writing an entire book was such a huge undertaking that I would never, because I'm easily distracted. So I thought I would never be able to write a whole book. And so I started small with short stories, and I built my way up to novel length things. It took me writing 3 or 4 things to get that length. But once I started, I couldn't stop. And now it's everything seems to be novel length. And it's not a thing. Every time I start one, I know that I will finish it. It may be difficult. It may take me a while. It always takes me a couple of months, 2 or 3 months to get a first draft, but I know that it will happen. And I don't know how that happened. Maybe it was just inside me somewhere. I don't know. I've always been a big reader, especially when I was a child. I used to read constantly. I would read a 300-page book in a day, every day, when I was in my teens and probably around 20. And then it kind of tailed off when, adulting started. And you have to do other things like housework and stuff and working and things. But yeah, I've always loved reading, so it probably kind of soaked in by osmosis almost this storytelling urge and ability. And then it just came out when I found out that I didn't have to go through a publisher to do it and I could do it myself, which is a wonderful thing. Yes. Then I don't know, it just happened. But I never learned anything. I do read a lot of articles on how to write, but it just happens, and I don't know where it comes from.
Okay, well, I think it's the water that you have in England, because every English woman that I've talked to so far says the exact same. Like, nobody says, well, I studied for 15 years how to write a book. Like, nobody says that. They're like, well, I picked up a pen, and then I started to write, and then I got this awesome, amazing novel. So I'm convinced that there is something about the way you guys operate. Like, it's just so easy for you. But how many novels have you written?
I've written I've written under I've written some that aren't under the name Nerys Leigh. 5, 6. Awesome. And there are a few short stories hanging around, but not all of them. I haven't published all of them.
Do you feel like after writing that many, especially in this series, like, do you feel like there is a formula, or do you feel like it's like every one of them is different? Like, or do you feel like, how some people say, oh, well, I have this formula and I outline it, and this is part 1, part 2, part 3, and I'm done, like that.
I don't know how people do that. I've read people have said that I'm just about to start writing my novel. It's going to be 72,387 words long, and I'm thinking, how do you know what length it's going to be? How do you know any of that stuff? I don't even formulate where the chapter breaks are going to be until I edit the first time. I have no idea what's going to happen. That's awesome. I just write. I don't even write in chronological order for the book. I don't write beginning to end. I will get ideas for scenes and I will write them, because I'll forget them if I don't write them straight away. And then they grow, kind of like doing a jigsaw. You start with the obvious bits in a jigsaw puzzle, and then you expand them and they join together, and you do the edge, and finally you do the sky, because that's always the most difficult. And so that's how I write books. I kind of start with the obvious bits, and then it expands, and then I learn more about the characters and more about the story, and eventually somehow it comes together. It's a bit haphazard, but it works for me.
It does work. Eventually. It does work. I was, when I picked it up, I found myself walking around the house holding it, and I was like, because I had read so much nonfiction in the last year. And then all of a sudden I got back into novels, and I was like, this reminds me of my childhood. I can lose myself in a novel. Not that nonfiction isn't amazing in its own thing, but you can actually lose yourself in a novel. And I've been loving the fact that I've gone back to novels, and this was actually one of them that I'm carrying around, doing other things, still reading, and it was I can't say enough good things about it. I really can't. It is amazing, and you are very talented. You had me going, all the way through. The story was just amazing, and I can't wait to read the first one. But okay, so do these stories cross? Is there or are they completely just they're set in the same setting, but do they know each other? Do these characters know each other, or is it a different story?
Yes, no, they all arrive together on the same train, and they've got to know each other.
This is ancient.
Does it say that on the back? I'm sure. You'll get the first. There are a couple of scenes that will be in every book. You get the first scene.
I love that idea. That is awesome.
Prologue. That it will be the same in every book. The scene about them arriving. So they've got to know each other in the week-long journey it takes to get from New York to California. So they're friends, and all the stories take place at the same time, which turns out to be really difficult to do, especially if you don't plot ahead like I do.
That is such a great concept. And I did not feel like, reading out of order. Like, you can read these out of order. Like, this isn't like a progression. It's like, she has her own story, and then she has her own story, even though, like, by the time you're done with the series, like, it's going to be, like, that is a great idea. I love that. Love it.
Yeah, it's sometimes I feel like, how am I going to get something new for these scenes that happen in each book? How am I going to, because they're coming from a different point of view, so you will get new details in the same scenes. But it's an interesting thing to do as a writer, to have to tell the same scene from different points of view. There's only a couple, 2 or 3, I'm trying to remember how many, that will happen in every book, and the rest of them, they're off doing their own thing. It's also difficult to know how much to put about the other books in each book, because you don't want to spoil it for other books. Like when you read the first one, you will probably recognise some things that were mentioned in the second one, but you don't have to know what's happened.
Now I'm so excited. That is so much, because I didn't realize that. I really didn't. I didn't read I thought they were just different stories. And I really actually wanted to just do your most recent for you so that you could, put it out there. But I love that idea. That is so cool. Not many books are like that. I love series, but this is totally different. It's like, I love that it's series from the same time frame, different points of view. I think that's amazing. That's great. Makes me very excited. Makes me more excited to read it. So anyway, but anybody can find you. You're on Facebook, and you do have your own website where they can buy these books. You're on Amazon. And
it has occasionally had the bestseller tag for a genre.
Yeah.
But it's awesome? Not today, sadly.
Well, it gets up there, though, because I wouldn't have found it otherwise. So because I know where I look. And so that's pretty awesome. I love that they have that. I love that you can go there and look for it. So everybody can look at, so you self-published these, but where did you get the cover from?
I actually designed the cover.
And it's so beautiful. I mean, even this, I just want people to see, like, the artwork on these are just beautiful.
I'm still learning about cover design, but if I can do it, then I will have a go.
So are they models? Or did you?
They're stock photos. You get stock photos, and they I combine the third, like the woman is one photo, and then the background is another one, and I think the bit at the bottom, the beehive, the honeycomb, that's another one, and then I put them all together.
I didn't even
swap around lighting.
So cool. I didn't even, because I was always looking up at her face in the farmhouse, but yeah, if anybody, that's a huge part of the story is their beehives, so that's amazing. And then on hers, we just have the letters and the background.
Yeah, she's got one of that. That's actually because I've got some of the letters that that the hero wrote to her.
Well, you did an amazing job. Amazing. I am so impressed by you guys that are self-published, because back in the day, you could tell right away. You would open up a book and be able to tell. But now I had to actually look to see if you self-published it. And that's a great compliment, because it's they're now the quality of getting the paperbacks and the quality of the covers is so good that you can't tell. Usually, before, 5-10 years ago, you get a self-published book, you could tell it was a self-published, or you get them on Kindle and you can tell because nothing's lined up and nothing's, but now, they're really good. So I'm so happy that you did that.
I went and looked through all my paperbacks, traditionally published paperbacks, to check how they did it, and I copied them, all the formatting and what it should look like, even the color of the paper, because you get a choice if you want to do white paper or green.
Yeah, and it's worth it, and because it does look so professionally done. And isn't it amazing that you can do that? Like, aren't you just so happy that world is out there for you?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
I think we're not anyone can, and as a reader, it's wonderful because there's so many stories out there that we would never have got to see if it wasn't for self-publishing.
It's crazy, and I talk to a lot of publishers, and they'll tell me that that there's things they still do, and I don't want to put them down because I talk to a lot of publishers. But what there is no, I am telling you from the bottom of my heart, there is nothing in this book that I could have said, oh well, this needed editing, or this was misspelled words somewhere, or grammar, or nothing told me. I had to actually look to see if it was self-published. So there.
Oh, that's good. Oh, no mistakes. I'm so happy. My
no
mom's
mistake.
reads
And I find myself since I'm a reader, I can catch mistakes pretty quickly, but I'm a homeschooling mom. I've had to read a lot of papers, and and I didn't find any. It was perfect.
Oh,
So
good. Very relieved.
Yeah. So anyway, I would love to chat with you again about your other books. It would be so much fun. So it would be amazing to have you back on here. And like I said, we'll post what your website is and where they can find you on Facebook. Is there anywhere else people can find you? Are you on Twitter or any of those other?
I'm not on Twitter. I keep thinking I should try out Twitter, but I do so. I need to write sometimes. I spend way too much time online when I should be writing. So I thought I don't want to get another thing that's going to distract me.
You know what? I am not. I have a Twitter, but I am not good at it. I do not have a Twitter brain. I like Facebook, and that seems to make sense. But I watch my kids on Twitter, and I'm like, I don't know. I just can't get the hang of it. And like you said, there are other things. I have other things to be doing than figuring it out. So for the time being, I'm on there, but it's not really anything. So it's not really. But anyway, thank you so much, and good luck with the next book. And I hope you let me know when it comes out, and we'll keep in touch. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Have a great day. Thank you.
Okay.